Hi, and welcome to another episode of Dog Talk with Pack Leader. Today is New Year's Eve, so Happy New Year to everybody. Today we're going to examine a video that I put out a little while back concerning a police handler, a police canine, and a reporter. I was really amazed by how closely accurate everybody was on their comments, and they were very much to the point, while they were just kind of singular as they were looking at things. So that actually what that does is this gives me an idea of what those particular respondents thought was the most important thing. A lot of you had that opinion concerning the dog in particular, and then of course the handler. But we're going to examine all three of the entities that were there just very briefly to let you know that this is normal in a dog world, that reaction is normal in a dog world. It doesn't matter what kind of quote-unquote training the dog had, which at 15 months old, German Shepherd, just getting to know its handler, probably not that well trained. But every dog has instinct, and this dog did exactly what it would do, whether it was your pet or whether it was a police canine. One of the things the police handler said that he really didn't know the dog and that he believed that the dog was doing okay when the reporter was close and trying to get even closer. Reporters will have a tendency to do this to try to get themselves in the frame of a camera. So this is not really unusual, but it is not considerate in the dog world. And first of all, the dog saw that. We're going to examine that in a second. The second of all, though, is that the handler protects the pack, protects to and from, and then directs. And the protection wasn't taking place as far as the outside of the pack part was concerned. If you have somebody who's coming up too close to your dog or doing it in an inconsiderate way, you're the pack leader. Tell them. You're running that introduction. That means from the dog's perspective, and it also means from the human perspective. It's nice to say, well, I warned you, but you tell them no, because I don't want my dog and I don't want you to have your dog in a position where it has to act out because you failed to do that. So let's look primarily at the reporter because that's where a lot of people saw that first. And I want to examine a couple of things. First of all, you did see the reporter getting way too close with a dog that was way too uncomfortable with that. You saw the ears were flicking back and up, not severely back, but the dog's whole vision, their eye contact, was that of being extremely uncomfortable and was moving back in a way to kind of create some space and some more comfortable distance. Another thing that a lot of you I don't think really saw, although one of you did in particular, was the nervous lip licking. Happened several times during that whole episode while the dog was sitting there and the reporter was way too close. The nervous lip licking is a real good indication that that dog is not comfortable and bad things are probably about to happen if something doesn't change. So you also have the reporter who grabbed the dog and then loomed over the dog in an attempt to get closer. He didn't do that intentionally, but he was trying to get himself even closer, which was not necessary. And at that point, the handler really should have stood up, brought the dog away, and go, let me show you how to introduce yourself to a dog, because that's not it. That was very close anyway. I'm really kind of surprised that the dog held off as long as he did. He was very, very uncomfortable the whole time, and he didn't react out of that uncomfortability really quick. So once again, let me remind you, it doesn't matter if he's a police dog or not, he's a dog, and that's instinct. And what he did was instinctual. What I also really like about what the dog did was that as he began to make that biting motion, as he was snapped back away from that, his whole demeanor was still very unsure, very uncomfortable. To me, that's not an aggressive attack. It's not comfortable, and it is certainly not within the rules of what we want our dogs to do. But what he did after the fact is really more important than during the fact. He snapped. That was a corrective bite. Dog would have done that with another dog who was doing the same thing. But what you didn't see was the dog continue to try to go after that same person. That's true aggression. That's red zone aggression. That warning of, hey, get away from me, is what dogs do to each other. And as you'll notice, they don't do that at the dog's torso or anything else. They do it at the most particular challenging aspect of the dog, usually their face, just like this reporter, his face. That was the target. So let's go over real quick handler responsibility, dog responsibility, other human responsibility. Handler's responsibility is to protect and direct. That means protecting the pack from all of the things that might make the pack uncomfortable. When he sees his dog beginning to act in that uncomfortable way, he has to do something to create the different environment. Remember, pack leaders create the environment. That means I create the environment with other people around my dog too. That's my responsibility as pack leader. He did correct the dog away from the reporter. That was good, but the dog was probably already in the process of moving back and away anyway. It's not like I don't want you to correct the dog does need correcting. But by the same token, just because you don't know a dog, a particular dog, doesn't mean that you shouldn't know dogs. That was a dog and canine response, regardless of what their history is, regardless of what their training is, regardless of their lack of training or history. The dog himself, he did what he was instinctually designed to do, and that is to protect himself from a threat. He did it in a very lenient aspect. If I were the dog, I probably would have bitten him much sooner than that. But you see, that dog didn't. And he kept on allowing it to happen, but it just kept getting worse. And he had to do something because the pack leader was not. The reporter's responsibility, as not as a reporter, but just as a human being, is to know how to introduce yourself to a dog. My other posts have talked about this, not petting on top of the head, not sticking your hand out, all of which the dog was being subjected to by this reporter. It's being petted on top of the head the whole time that it was not comfortable for him. The reporter also needs to know that dogs need to sniff you, and not every dog likes to get hugged, especially not a dog you don't know. Small percentage of dogs in the entire world, only about 7%, that enjoy being hugged by a human. I think that number is a little bit low, but I also know that there's a very high number of dogs that don't like to have that much concentrated affection at a time when they're not really ready for it and they don't necessarily want it at that point. So in this next new year, make it a resolution for yourself that you're going to be a better pack leader. You're going to be a better pack leader for yourself, for your dogs, for the humans that you come across, and that you can have a safer, more productive, and a more fun new year in 2017. Until next time, I'm Greg. This has been Dog Talk with Pack Leader. Stay calm, stay assertive, stay in charge.